But we begin today with the big story and this week's the Penn State football Twitter account asking a very important question to all of its followers. Where do you want Jaquan Brisker to end up in this weekend's NFL draft? I'm pretty sure that the former Penn State safety would like to end up anywhere if he goes in the first round. Hey, Jaquan, joining us now on Big Ten Today. Jaquan, you took on a heavy role in 2021, and you were asked to do, honestly, a little bit of everything from that safety spot. So how do you describe your versatility as a player?
Really, it's different. As a player, I'm just, playing in the box. I can come down and hit, be physical, play man, play zone, cover them big tight ends. And then, in the secondary, I can show that I got range, I can attack the ball and make plays in the back end. I think my versatility, is very different. My communication skills and my leadership.
Jaquan, I've read a lot of different draft analysts on what you are and what you can be at the next level. My favorite is a guy named Kyle Krabs, who writes for the Draft Network, and I want you to listen. This is what he wrote about that pick that you had in the game against Wisconsin in the opener last year. Quote, "That play encapsulates a lot of what Brisker brings to the table as a cerebral defender. His anticipation and recognition allowed him to start on the opposite hash, work into the middle of the field to undercut the throw. This would be an exciting addition to any secondary in need of versatility and game-changing play." So a lot of talk there about your football IQ. How important is football IQ to your success?
I think it's very important because, my football IQ helps me play, very fast. Once I, see a certain play or, I just trust my instincts, it just helps me play fast. It helps my teammates, better around me. So, I think my football IQ is very important.
I saw you smile as I was reading that quote and that analysis. Do you feel like that does encapsulate a little bit of who you are as a player?
Yes, I do. I feel like, my football IQ, just, shows what I could do on the field. As long as you're smart and, you know exactly what, your teammates are doing, you could play even more faster. So, I feel like it's a game changer.
Now, a good friend of yours, former teammate Jair Brown, also had a late pick in that Wisconsin game, but the connection goes much deeper than that. You both started at Lackawanna College in Scranton. So what was your journey like, born in Pittsburgh, then through high school ball to Lackawanna and eventually to State College and Penn State?
The journey was crazy. Came out of high school, went to junior college, did 2 years there. And, there it was just, very tough, I had to make it out, had to make sure, I did everything right, handle school, and then handle football, football take care of itself. So it was just coming, from Lackawanna to Penn State and then, having, teammates come with me, is really unbelievable. It just shows, how great of a program, Lackawanna is. And then, it's just been a very long journey.
Really cool that we just showed Lackawanna football sending out a tweet last week to wish you a happy birthday. I believe it was April 20th was your birthday. So what exactly did you do to celebrate?
Really just went to Pittsburgh and hung out with my family. I had a lot of time, going on, top 30 visits and, visiting teams. So what I really did was just, spend time with my family in Pittsburgh, and we had a great time.
So Penn State defensive coordinator Manny Diaz, in his first year now, takes over. He actually told me that when he was watching Jair play, he said if everybody on this defense was like Jair Brown, they wouldn't need a coach. They could just go ahead and play football because he's such a coach. I mean, how much of that, Jaquan, are you crediting yourself with teaching Jair?
I feel like a lot because when I was back there, I was always, trying to coach. That's what they always say, like, you're going to be a coach one day. I was always, being a great leader, on and off the field, leading by example, and also being vocal, being very vocal during the good times and the bad times. As a leader, you can't just be, great on the good days. You got to let them know on the bad days. So, I feel like, my leadership and, what I showed them last year, is going to transfer over to Jair and the rest of those guys.
Yeah, really cool. He actually said in his own words, he learned an endless amount playing with you in that Penn State secondary. I want to talk about you and your athleticism. This summer, I understand you posted a nearly 36-foot triplet jump and a standing broad of over 10 and a half feet. So what have teams at the next level told you about how your athleticism compares to others of your position in the NFL?
Other teams, just say, my athleticism is, very different, especially for my size and, how fast I can really move, as the safety, really moving like a corner. So I feel like my athleticism is, very different at the safety position. And, once the transfer, to the field to the NFL, it's going to be, very different.
Now, I know that safeties are usually more concerned with the speed, with the agility, but you put up 22 reps on the bench at 2 1/4. That's the second most among all safeties. There has to be a little bit of pride, too, in showing that you're one of the more swole guys in those defensive backfields.
Yes, it's a lot of pride in the weight room. I just like to show, guys that I'm very strong, especially back here. I used to compete where offensive lineman, defensive lineman, always, making sure, I was on point, so when I get in the box, I can handle my own. So really just showing how strong I really am and, what I could do.
Now, and I understand you tweaked your back just a little bit, not a serious injury, but just enough of a tweak to kind of affect you throughout the rest of the combine, and yet you still decided to run the 40, even with that tweak, and you go sub 540. So what were you trying to show in deciding to run, even though you kind of knew you were a little bit less than 100%?
Really, I just love to compete. Compete everything you do. That's what, Coach Franklin always said. So, I'm just always going to compete. I want to still run and, make sure, I had a time. And I just wanted to see where I was. But really just competing everything you do. And I just want to go out there and still compete. And I know I had called a day after the first one.
Now, you are part of a very deep class at safety. This is one of the deepest classes in terms of top-level safeties and guys who are considered immediate impact players at that position in multiple years. What do you think, if you were to boil it down to one or two things, what helps you stand out from that very deep and talented group?
Really, I'll say my experience and then my versatility. My experience, I've been playing for, 3 years. At Penn State, and then I'll say my versatility. That I can play. That I'm very balanced. I can play in the box, and I'm great, and I can play in the back, and I'm great. I feel like I'm just very different. I show a lot, and I play football.
All right, Jaquan. So we obviously hope that we hear your name called early this weekend. I am curious, when your name is called, where will you be? What are your plans to watch this weekend's draft?
I'm going to be home in Pittsburgh, with my family and friends and some of my teammates from, Lockwood from high school and from Penn State also. So I'm going to be back home in Pittsburgh, celebrating. And, when my name is called, it's going to be a crazy, moment.
Well, Jaquan, we truly are wishing you the best of luck this weekend. We know your name will be called, and it will be called early, and some team in the NFL going to be very lucky to have you, your versatility, and your IQ in their defensive backfield. Jaquan Brisker, former Penn State safety. Jaquan, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the draft.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Penn State's played its spring game last weekend. This weekend, we have a doubleheader, and the second of the two spring games, Minnesota, PJ Fleck and the Gophers coming your way 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 local time from Minneapolis. Watch it live right here on the Big Ten Network or anywhere you choose on the Fox Sports app. Head coach Mike Locksley and the Maryland Terrapins kick off their spring game this Saturday in College Park. Start time is noon Eastern. You can see it right here on the Big Ten Network. And, of course, you can watch wherever you may be on the Fox Sports app. And we do begin with the big interview. It is Maryland head coach Mike Locksley joining us from College Park. Locks, first and foremost, great to see you. How's spring been?
It's been going great, Rick, and it's great to see you and be on as well, man.
Hey, how evident was the momentum, maybe a little bit of extra bounce this spring after the team comes off the bowl win, first winning season there since 2014?
Being able to go to a bowl and show the players what it looks like when you take care of business, doing things the right way, all the hard work that goes into a season, to have it culminate with the ability to go to New York City, which we did at the Pinstripe Bowl, and have the type of victory we had against a regional rival like Virginia Tech, has been great for our program. Obviously, we still got a lot of work to do, but I think being able to do that in year 3 is something that we can build upon.
Every coach agrees the most important thing to happen coming out of spring is to come out healthy and to come out with depth at every position. Where are you in those two areas?
Well, I think we're good in both because, one, we did have quite a few injuries that had end-of-season or end-of-year surgeries where they weren't able to participate, not having the Dante Demuses, the Jaquan Jones. We had Rakim Jarrett in a limited capacity. Had quite a few guys that had some surgeries there at the end of the season, so haven't been able to participate, but we know that we'll have them back here very soon. But it's also given us a great opportunity to develop the other pieces of our roster and to be able to see some of the young players and how they've developed this spring. And we've been able to maintain fairly good health here during spring ball and really got a lot of work done. So had a little bit of both, Rick.
Mike, I know everybody wants to start when they talk individual players with the quarterback and Taulia Tagovailoa, but I'm not going to do that. I want to start with the big guys in front of him because all five of those guys who played really well in that Pinstripe Bowl returned to your roster this spring. How important is that continuity to help the offense flow?
There's no doubt that having five returning starters up front, and it was a group that I saw take a huge step from the time I got here in 2019 to where we are today. To have those five guys returning is definitely an added advantage for us as we look to continue to build this program. And we know to win in the Big Ten, it starts up front with winning. And to have Jalen Duncan, Mason Lunsford, Jahari Branch, Spencer Anderson, all those guys returning and then adding a guy like DJ Glaze into the mix who played quite a bit for us last year. Been really, really pleased with the group, how they've come together this spring. And then we've been able to develop the depth there with our second O-line as young players like Emilio Moran and Eric Harris, as well as Ja'Kai Green and having Andre Roy here early. I feel really good that the development that we needed to see up front on the offensive line and with that returning group will help us continue to build.
All right, so I didn't start with Leah, but you knew I would get there eventually. Listen, he had games last year where he looked like the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and then there were still moments where he looked a little bit out of sorts. How far in his development is he in terms of reaching the point where those out of sorts moments will become a rarity?
Yeah, you know what, and I'm going to continue to defend him because he's our quarterback, and he had one quarter where I felt he was out of sorts, and that was the second quarter of the Iowa game. Other than that, we won some games here and had our first winning season, and a lot of it can be said because of the play we got out of our quarterback position. And what I would hope is that Leah continues to build on a tremendous skill set. He broke records here of some great quarterbacks that have played in the NFL and had great success at the highest level. And so, obviously, I'm a Leah Tagovailoa fan. I think the people in the country, I think people in our conference, I think he made honorable mention all Big Ten. And if you tell me there's three other better quarterbacks in our league than Leah Tagovailoa, I'll argue with you about that.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into an argument. I'm not going to tell you that anyway because I don't think that. Lox, you brought up some of the guys at wide receiver who were limited last year. I look at this room, and I think if healthy, it's not just one of the best in the Big Ten. You're going to be able to make an argument. It's one of the best in the country. You brought up Demus and Jarrett and Jaquan Jones. Now you have Florida transfer Jacob Copeland. How high is the ceiling for that group?
Yeah, that room is still the strength of our team, and, not having, the guys like Jaquan and Dante during spring, Rock has been doing some things limited. We lost Marcus Fleming coming off the broken leg out of the Michigan State game, who was a great addition to us. And now you throw in Jacob Copeland and a guy like Ty Felton, who's really benefited from all the extra reps that he's been able to get this spring. Still one of the strengths of our team, which to me is what helps us be as diverse as we can be. If we continue to improve the running game, which I think we will when you see the young running backs and what they've been able to do here this spring, the Kobe McDonalds, the Roman Hembees, and Antoine Littletons, we feel really good with our offense and what it looks like moving forward.
Yeah, those running backs, they're young, but they're talented. The experience isn't there, just 150 combined rushes from that entire group. So what do you need from that group to help your offense?
A healthy Challen Matau. We lost Challen at the end of the season, and he's a veteran running back. We put him on scholarship a year ago, and he brings some of that experience because he's one of those guys that has that game experience. But Kobe McDonald took a lot of reps for us last year as a true freshman, and then we were able to redshirt Roman and Antoine Littleton, but they both played significant roles in that Virginia Tech game when you throw it on. And so bringing those three in one class, we really helped ourselves because that has been a position of strength for us over the past few years with guys like Jake Funk and Anthony McFarland and Javon Leak, who've gone on, and Ty Johnson, who've all gone on to play in the National Football League. So excited about the youth of the room, but they're very, very talented, and we're excited about the direction of our offense.
Our Locks defensively have 7 starters returning, but obviously a change in the front of the room. Now, Brian Williams did call plays last couple of games after Brian Stewart's departure late in the season. How did that transition kind of play out and evolve over the course of the spring?
You know what? It's one of the moves that we felt we needed to make. Brian Williams has the utmost respect of the players in that room as well as me as the head coach. I've seen his growth as a play caller. We threw him into the fire in a must-win game against Rutgers. We made the change there, did a tremendous job in calling that game, and then the job he did with us on defense in the Virginia Tech game just really added to what I already thought was that he could be a guy that leads that room. And for what we want to get accomplished on defense and the direction we want to go, he was the best man for the job. And then we've put some additions around him, bringing in Wes Neighbors and Lance Thompson, who both have experience in this style of defense that we're running. It's been a win-win for us on the defensive side of the ball.
Now, you did lose Damian Robinson, who had a great freshman year at DN, to the transfer portal just before spring. Which players this year helped fill that void?
We've got guys like Ami Fee now, who's returning for a COVID year, and we've seen just what that type of extra year did for a guy like Sam Okwanko. You see Mo Kite, who had a pretty good year for us last season, returning. The addition, of guys like Jayshawn Barham and guys like Caleb Wheatland, who are both 2 true freshmen that came in and participated in spring. And then the addition of Vandarius Cow and a transfer from West Virginia, who I had a chance to coach there and see at Alabama, has added some experience as well as some new guys that we feel have the ability to help us continue to grow our defense.
All right, Locks, as you well know, with success comes expectation. So what's the most critical thing that this particular group needs to do to build on the momentum and kind of meet those expectations that I know you always have inside your own room this year?
Yeah, it starts just with what you talked about, Rick. The only expectations that matter are the ones that we put on ourselves. I really like the locker room. I like the culture that's been created here as we head into year 4. There's a great understanding of what is expected, our standard, and what we want to see as a program, as our team build upon those foundations, the foundation we've laid here the last 3 years, and continue our upward rise as we fight for significance in a big-time football conference.
All right, Mike, before we get you out of here, give us a little bit of a sneak peek, a preview, if you will. Different coaches have different beliefs when it comes to spring games. Some guys say, let's have a lot of fun. We'll throw everything out there. Some guys say, I'm not so sure I want the folks we play in September to see what we're doing in the spring. If you've watched any lacrosse this season, certainly in the Big Ten, this has been a very familiar sight. Maryland celebrating a win, the most recent one, bringing the Terps the outright Big Ten regular season championship, unbeaten in the Big Ten, 12-0 overall. This team has been better than everybody in the country, and you can make an argument inside the Big Ten hasn't even been very close. And for more on that, welcome in Big Ten Network lacrosse analyst Mark Dixon. And Mark, I say that knowing that the rest of the league is really good. Rutgers is really good. Ohio State is really good. Yet the Terps have won every league game this year by at least 7 goals. So how can you put into perspective how dominant this team has been?
It's been incredible and really fun to watch, especially if you're a Maryland Terrapin fan. It's the way that they execute and the way that they get it done. It's so proficient on offense. Defense is so physical yet disciplined. The goaltending's been terrific. The way they share the ball and make the one more. Really, it all starts at the faceoff dot with Luke Weirman. He's been absolutely fantastic this season, probably the most improved player in men's college lacrosse for 2022. They just have so many different weapons, so many different ways to beat you. You know, when you look at this thing historically, and nothing's been won just yet other than the Big Ten regular season championship, but you got to go back to 2006 and a University of Virginia team that just really dominated NCAA competition en route to a perfect season and an NCAA championship. But even along the way, they had a 1-goal game against Princeton in the regular season. They had a 4-goal victory over Notre Dame in the NCAA quarterfinals. And I know that Maryland isn't there yet in the Big Ten tournament or the NCAA tournament, but historically, when you're looking at a team that's gone through the regular season and conference play, the way Maryland has in 2022, the most recent comparator is 2006, the Virginia Cavaliers.
I mean, the man is a walking lacrosse encyclopedia. It's unbelievable. You bring up Weirman. He's one of 3 Tewaaraton nominees on this team, but those nominees are led by Logan Wisnauskas, 4th in the nation in points per game. He is such a dynamic player and so much fun to watch. What do you think his chances are, Mark, of taking home the National Player of the Year award?
I think they're pretty good, but unlike past years, there's no clear-cut favorite at this juncture. And I think that Wisnauskas would absolutely be up for Outstanding Attackman and National Player of the Year. But because Maryland has so many different weapons and he's so selfless, it might hurt his chances, as weird as that might sound. But typically the Player of the Year, the Tewaaraton Award, it goes to a player who excels all the way down the line through their conference tournament, the NCAA tournament, and then, of course, if their team can hoist the national championship trophy, it could be a really good day for Logan Wisnauskas. But if you look at some challengers, you know, Chris Gray from North Carolina, Connor Schellenberger from Virginia, you also have Patrick Cavanaugh from Notre Dame, as well as other Big Ten players in the mix for that 25 list of finalists right now. So anything is possible, but Logan Wisnauskas, if Maryland can put together that run, if they can continue at a high level, and especially if the Terrapins are the ones holding the gold on Memorial Day weekend, Wisnauskas is probably going to be your National Player of the Year.
All right, so Mark, you mentioned that there are other Big Ten players on that list of 25 and other Big Ten players who have had outstanding years for their respective teams. Which players should we expect to get some end-of-the-year recognition from the Big Ten?
First and foremost, Jack Myers from from Ohio State. I mean, the guy's been unbelievable. He's raised his game to an insane level, 71 points on the season. He is the main man for an Ohio State team that really has their eyes set on not only a Big Ten championship, but doing some damage in the NCAA tournament. And then you go over to Rutgers. Ross Scott has been fantastic. We saw him on Saturday rescue his team with the game-tying and game-winning goal in overtime against Penn State. He's put together 57 points, really assuming the leadership, the quarterback role of that attack unit, of that offense in Piscataway. And then his goaltender, Colin Kirst. I don't think he was particularly sharp this past weekend, but he is the linchpin of a Rutgers defense that can be very, very good. He's saving around 54% on the season, but he has just been a mainstay. And as we saw a year ago, Rick, when the stakes were highest in the NCAA tournament, that is when Kirst raised his level to a whole nother stratosphere. So I think we can expect that in the postseason as well from the Rutgers goaltender.
Yeah, been some outstanding individual performances. Let's go back to team conversations and go to the women's side, where Maryland beat Northwestern fairly convincingly, 15-9 over the weekend, to clinch at least a share of the title. They can win it outright by beating Michigan this weekend. How impressive was that performance by Kathy Reese and the Terps?
That was an eye-opener. And you see the way Maryland has played all season long. They are so much better than they were in 2021. And that was a year they still made the Big Ten championship, still made the NCAA tournament. And that was considered to be a down year in College Park. But when you look at Rory Cordingley on the attack, 92 points. And Abby Bosco, the defender, so 2 transfers right there. Much like the men's side of Maryland, the women's side has mined the transfer portal in expert fashion, and they've plugged these players in. Emily Sterling between the pipes has been fantastic. She is a first-team All-American candidate. And when you look at some of the other players that have been around for a long time, Libby May, Grace Griffin, this is just such a well-rounded team in College Park. And to beat Northwestern the way that they did, and this is not a perfect Maryland team. They stubbed their toe a couple weeks ago against James Madison, an upset loss at home, no less, where Maryland has just been so dominant over the last 5-6 seasons. So this is a Maryland team, though. They are primed to make a run at the Big Ten Tournament Championship, and they are primed to make a run at championship weekend and another national title for Coach Kathy Reese.
All right, Mark, let's close with giving some much-deserved recognition to one of the longest-tenured coaches in all of college lacrosse, men's or women's, and that's Janine Tucker at Johns Hopkins, who announced earlier that this would be her final season. She'll coach her final regular season game on Thursday. Nearly 30 years, more than 300 wins as the Blue Jay head coach. How should we measure her impact on the sport?
I had the opportunity to talk to Coach Tucker this morning as I will be covering their game with Penn State this coming Thursday. And just her energy and the sheer joy that she gets out of coaching this game and the women that she has coached and she is currently coaching. Carol Entz, my broadcast partner, and I asked her the question, what do you want your legacy to be? And she said, of course, I got into coaching to be successful, to win conference championships, national championships, but my biggest objective is to be a player's coach, to come into this thing, take care of these women. Their parents have entrusted me with their college careers, both academically, athletically, socially, and that really resonated when you look at this past weekend when they beat Ohio State and come from behind fashion at Hopkins to stay in the conversation, in the mix for a berth in the Big Ten tournament. And just the smile on her face, the relationship that she has with her players, I think that is the biggest impact that Janine Tucker has had on the sport, showing coaches, yeah, this is intense. And as we continue to evolve with bigger, stronger, faster athletes, at the heart of it all is how you take care of your team, how you take care of the women you coach, so that 5, 10, 15 years from now, they're still in touch with you. They're updating you on their family. They're updating you on their life, their career. And I think that's the biggest thing that Janine Tucker is going to be remembered for.
Really well said. Mark Dixon, Big Ten Network lacrosse analyst. We truly appreciate the time. Enjoy that call on Thursday. We look forward to chatting with you down the road.